Hi, it's the M.L.M for the Soul channel. I do have a new topic for today. Before I begin, I just would like to say, may the words and expression of my mouth and the thoughts and meditations of my heart find favor and acceptance before you, Hashem. And some people I thank who've inspired me. I hope they can inspire you as well. We'll have links below this video to their sites. They are Rabbi Shalom Arush, Rabbi Lazer Brody, Rabbi Yosef Mizrahi, Rabbi Eli Mansour, Rabbi Alon Anava, Rabbi Yuval Ovadia, Rabbi Daniel Asor, Nisan Baruch Black, David Sachs, Rabbi Michael Skobach, Jews for Judaism, Rabbi David Asher, and Rabbi Aaron Reuven. As well, if you've never checked out this channel before, I will have a link right below this video to my first video that explains what M.L.M for the Soul means, what it stands for, and what I'm doing. So the topic for today, this is again from a email from Rabbi Eli Mansour. So I call this Torah preservation an extraordinary miracle. So this is what he says. So Rabbi Yuval Epstein, in the introduction to the Choshen Mishpat section of his Aruch HaShulchan, makes an important observation about a millennia-old halachic tradition. He notes that although we find in the Talmud many disputes on a wide range of halachic issues, there are no disagreements regarding the fundamental definitions of the mitzvot. The arguments among the Chachamim relate only to the details of the mitzvot, but not to their basic definitions. It's an important point. An Am Haaretz, which is an individual who is ignorant of the Torah, might have the impression that the rabbis argue over every issue about halacha and there is no uniformity at all. But this is far from true. There are many disputes relating to the details, but the fundamental aspects of the mitzvot are and always have been universally accepted. Again, another important point. So the fundamentals are always the same. They never change. The Aruch HaShulchan cites numerous examples to illustrate his point, so this is so you understand it better. There is no disagreement, he observes, on the definition of the Torah's requirement to take a pre-Eitz Hadar on Sukkot. All sages always follow the assumption that this phrase refers to an etrog. Likewise, it was universally accepted that when the Torah establishes the liability of an eye for an eye, it means monetary compensation, not literally removing an eye. See, that's the problem with those people who only go by the written Torah, not the oral. So they don't understand what it actually means. They actually think it's an eye for an eye, literally, but it's not. So no Talmud scholar or student ever questioned whether the Tefillin Shel Rosh is made with 4 compartments, or whether there are 2 sections of the Torah written inside the mezuzah. And all sages in every generation agreed on the number of brachot in the Amidah prayer, which is 18 plus the additional bracha of the Laminim. The number of brachot recited before and after Shema in the basic text of Pesukei D'Zimra, so everything there is uniform. There are, of course, technical differences regarding the details of the text. So, for example, like Sephardim recite the text of Ahavat Olam, whereas many Ashkenazim say Ahava Rabbah. Sephardim recite Hodu before Baruch She'amar, whereas Ashkenazim recite it after Baruch She'amar. But there is and always has been uniformity regarding the basic structures of these prayer services. So again, it's the structure, basic part is the same, but there's other things that are slightly different. The Aruch HaShulchan also notes uniformity regarding the basic prohibitions of Shabbat and Yom Tov. True, there are many differences of opinions regarding the technical details of how these prohibitions apply, but all accept the basic 39 categories of forbidden activities. And all Jews across the world, from one end of the earth until the other, always begin and end Shabbat at the same time again. Of course, because of different time zones, you'll finish at a certain time, maybe someone else will finish at a certain time because you're in a different place. So, but it still ends at the same time. The Aruch HaShulchan emphasizes the point that this observation provides compelling proof to the authenticity of our halachic tradition. Even though Jews in different countries had no communication with one another for centuries, like, for example, there's no telephones, no email, you couldn't get in touch with each other right away, they observed the same traditions with only minor technical differences distinguishing the communities from one another. If a Jew from Yemen, for example, would have traveled to a Jewish community in Eastern Europe, he would have observed the same Shabbat and participated in the same basic liturgical service as he did back home. The Jews in Poland and Austria followed the same basic Torah tradition as the Jews in Baghdad, Tripoli, and Tunis. As the Aruch HaShulchan observes, this was true even before the publication of the Shulchan Aruch some 400 years ago, which unified world Jewry under a single halachic code. So that made everything uniform. Again, it's still going to be slight differences, Ashkenaz, Sfar, there's different customs, other things like that. That's a separate thing from this. And this is an extraordinary miracle. So that's why, hence the title. So normally, traditions are lost and forgotten over time, but Hashem gave us His promise that Lo Tishchach Mi Pi Zaro, that's from the Dvarim, that the Torah will never be forgotten from among the Jewish people. The miracle of the preservation of a uniform Torah tradition, again, it's uniform, that's important, notwithstanding the numerous discrepancies in the fine details. So the details may be different, but the basic tradition is the same. testifies to the fulfillment of this promise and to the eternal truth of our ancient halachic tradition. So I thought this was an important thing to share, to remember that the basics are still the same. It's some of the details that may change, but nobody veers. We don't create a new tradition like, unfortunately, other groups do. They change things. We don't change things. It's just things that the details or the placement of when you say a certain thing in the davening, it may be a little different, or if you go by a different nusach like Ashkenaz, Sfard, the Ari, there's so many different ones, but basically that's important to know that we need to keep that, and the fact that it's been preserved for so long is very important and crucial to remember that and to keep it going. And that I hope that through everything that we do, we will all merit to live and see the coming of Mashiach speedily in our days and the rebuilding of our final and everlasting Beis HaMikdash. Amen, and thanks for watching.